You okay?
Mm,
Hmm?
yeah, just sleep.
Can you put the rest, please? All this one here is for ironing, or you just mix them?
Put them down, listen.
I don't know. Your shirt was here. Something was here for you. Looks like everybody was done here. I don't know if it's ironing here or everything.
I didn't, everything there was iron, nothing else.
But this one irons.
So put them on top of that, put them up there. Put them up to that, put them up.
Almost done. like enough. Yes, 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 something happened.
Maybe the virus people want to come out.
This one, just me.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just a mistake. Mm. Hello.
Morning, Tom. I'm here.
Okay.
Just trying to get some other things done in the process.
Okay. Hello from Canada.
Hello.
Bye, Dad. What's wrong with you? Do you have a vaccine?
I think so. But it made worse by I had to walk to go buy bread for your mom and the son and everything.
Where did you walk?
All the way like I'm going towards that place they do that tourist place in that direction. I was looking for a particular shop your mother have to go and look for. And I just walking all the way down. Hey! You are back? Huh? You back?
I'm so happy.
What? Oh, you? Oh.
It's definitely the happiest to see Dad.
Huh? Yeah. Wow.
That's how that works now.
Yeah, I know it's Dad side.
Sorry, then.
Bye.
Yeah? Come. Come. What? Yeah. We missed you here. Huh? We missed you here. Sit. They lay down. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Do you know?
Well,
Do you know Ed Whale?
I don't know.
Alright, I'm going to talk about it.
Okay.
Sit. Now he's grown.
He's grown, huh?
Now
Yeah, okay. I mean,
Good morning.
yeah.
Good morning.
Afternoon. Good day.
Very much. What? This is so funny. What?
Morning from the Philippines. I mean, good evening.
Hi, Jesse.
It's been a while.
Morning, Jesse. Haven't seen you in quite a few years.
You know, I missed you all. Actually, it's evening here in Manila, Philippines.
Well, it's kind of sort of daylight here.
Right.
I mean, it's 7:30 a.m., but we got such heavy cloud cover, you really can't tell.
It's a holiday right now over here. We're celebrating Chinese New Year.
Oh, yeah. More.
Year of the Ox.
Yeah.
Good morning, Tom.
Morning.
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, James.
Okay. Good morning, Bill. Good morning.
Good
It's all
morning.
7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning in US, I think.
Yes, just finished one Rotary meeting. Now I'm here. But we have room for articles. If anyone has any for the bread basket, be glad to take them or email them. I don't know which picture looks better, John. You with the rabbit ears on your hat or the live? Oh, that one definitely. Well, what's your temperature up there, Tom?
Minus. Let me see here. Minus 11 Celsius.
Oh, plus 74 Fahrenheit here. It's tough living in Orlando. Must be nice in the Philippines.
Well, it's 26 degrees centigrade right now.
Well,
We have
that's not-
summer all year.
Yes.
So Tom, I did some calculation. Minus 11 is 12.2, so call it 12 degrees Fahrenheit. We got you beat. It's 11 here in St. Louis.
Oh,
And we're expecting wind chills of 20 to 30 below zero over the weekend. And then starting Sunday evening, 6 to 8 inches of snow.
Wow.
So Bill, I don't want to hear your weather. Okay. I'm just telling you straight up. We were supposed to be down there starting yesterday. We were supposed to be in St. Pete's, and then everything got canceled, hotel and everything canceled. So I don't want to hear it.
fair enough.
And I'm saying that with a big grin on my face, but by the same token.
Understood, sir. Morning, Steve.
Well, with the wind chill, it's minus 19 Celsius.
Oh, a good little turnout. You're mute, Steve.
So, Bill, your picture's from Taiwan?
No,
Okay.
this is mainland China. It's the ice sculpture.
Oh, right. Hello, Steve.
Morning, Tom.
Any snow? Any snow down there, Steve?
Well, it's getting close to 50 degrees right now, so I couldn't tell because it would be melting. I think I came off mute. Yeah.
So, James,
Yeah.
what's new in your club?
Ah, nothing special. We are organizing a program, a joint program with some clubs. We have a speaker coming up on 27th. So we are in the process of organizing a joint meeting with a few clubs. That is what. And then we have an online directory coming up for our classifications. All that is keeping us busy. Yeah, our temperature is about 29 degrees Celsius now. In the evening at 7 o'clock in the evening. Excuse me.
Our speaker is going to be in, she's speaking to us from Tanzania.
Yeah. She's already online?
Pardon?
Is she already online?
No, she'll be here in a couple of minutes.
Ah, okay.
Oh, Steve, what's happening in your club?
Everybody's dying. That sounds kind of cynical, but we just had another one die Tuesday. We have lost 3 members in 2 months to death, 2 of those to COVID. And those are active members. And right now we've got maybe 18 to 20 active members, or we did till these deaths started. Some of you are like younger than me, and maybe death is more startling. When you get to be my age, you kind of get to where you're used to it. But it's had a pretty good impact.
I check the obituaries every morning, see if my name's there.
I just started doing that, but I have a paper from California, so I'm not sure I'll make it.
They do say that's the one question that you can't answer yes to, either when you're asleep or, as the previous speaker said, when you're dead.
Yeah.
I didn't get the end of that question.
Pardon?
I didn't get the end of that question.
The question is, what can you not answer yes to? What can you not answer yes to?
John Buchanan, are you there? John?
I'm here somewhere.
What's happening in your club?
Nothing. We pretty much shut down with the COVID problems.
No Zoom calls?
Yeah, we do Zoom, but it's not very effective.
We get about half the members attending a Zoom meeting. There are some that just will not.
We're using Google Meet and it's working fairly well, but sure could be better.
Hi, Steve.
Good morning.
Morning, Steve.
Jesse, tell us about your club.
Well, we have been trying to adjust to the new normal, whatever that means. So everything is virtual. But I guess there's a lot of opportunities that also comes along. But, you know, it's a little bit difficult trying to make the adjustments. But we'll survive.
Bill, anything new in your club?
No, sir. We're getting ready to do our annual fundraisers, so we'll see how they turn out. One's in April and the other is in August, or November rather. So we have our RAP, Rotary, I even forget what the heck the name's called now, but it's for young achievers. So we have a dinner that we'll have to do virtually this year, and we'll end up giving 20 awards out to the different students and then a 4-year scholarship. Rising Achievers Program, RAP. Getting old.
You ain't
If I
seen
can,
nothing yet.
if I can say something about that on scholarships, one of my issues with Rotary is the fact that the global grants are seemingly only allowed to support graduates. And that's outside the host country for further studies. And I can't see the reason that global grants can't do scholarships within the host country, particularly as we've tried here to have it for people studying in health sciences, nursing, lab technicians, social workers, things like that. And actually, it's one of my aims to bring this, as I have done already, to a higher level. We made an appeal to the trustees again, because we did get 2 exceptions for that due to the Ebola outbreak that we had in Liberia in 2014, where we did support such students with scholarships. But that was on an exceptional basis, probably a mistake actually, but somehow we got it through. And when we made the appeal this time, because we were turned down by the global grants committees in Everson, the trustees turned it down, and I kind of agree with them because they turned it down because they don't want to keep giving exceptions. So the only way to do that is to get the manual or the policies changed. And if there's anyone out there that can support this effort, I think we'd appreciate it because we just don't have the funds at district levels to support enough students on scholarships and things like that. It has been quite successful with us. We've graduated 38 students this year. One of our scholars is first in his class. The other one is third in his class. And we've done it only to support second and third year students. We don't look to give students who are looking to enter, they must be going into their second year and show us that they are quite keen on continuing their education. So if anyone's interested, I'll just put my email on the chat as well. And thank you if ever you're speaking to any of the trustees or other people's, that would be great. And I hope everyone can agree with that. Thanks.
Thank you. Our speakers in March will be Ron and Glow from the Philippines, and they are going to speak about grants. So hopefully we'll get some answers on new funding. With COVID, Rotary has saved millions and millions of dollars. The directors and our president, usually we're spending thousands on travel, and now there's no travel. Hello, Laurel.
Hello.
Tell us about your club.
Okay, I'm from District 5230. I'm in the Cultural Arts Rotary Club of Fresno. We've been around since 1953, but our focus is on youth and the arts. One of our Rotary projects for our international committee is working with a school in Tanzania called the School of St. Jude. And so we're very interested in Stephanie Huff's presentation.
Thank you. David, tell us about your club.
Well, the Rotary Club of Monrovia is functioning. As other members have said, not everyone gets on the Zoom meetings, but we are kind of fortunate in Liberia. We haven't had the exponential outbreak of COVID. So in fact, yesterday was a holiday here. Our club presented to 4 institutions, the School for the Deaf, the School for the Blind, an old age home, and a school, not a school, but a home for people with mainly cerebral palsy. We presented them with an assortment of foodstuffs, as we do every year. And coming up, well, we have this big project, Mercy Ships, which you may have heard about as well, although that has also been delayed by COVID. So we're just getting back to meet the new country director who's here next week. And we have some other grants and things going on. Our club is quite diversified. I think we're around 38 at the moment. So we have doctors, lawyers, but we're trying to get younger ones in. That's for sure. And, what would I say? Depend on the more females we have, I think the better we operate. But that's debatable, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. At one time, I was on a Polio Plus trip in Benin, and during our visit there, we had a tour of the Mercy Ship. It's a fabulous project. Everyone on board pays a fee for room and board, and there's no salary for anybody. An amazing project. David Robinette, tell us about your club. David?
Now, with 3 different mute buttons, I have to figure out which one I actually muted. So I can commiserate with everybody with the virtual aspect. Our club has been virtual since the end of March last year. We're going to wrap up this Rotary year virtual. St. Louis County has put in some, even with their loosened regulations now, it's still, we would not be, we need to find a very large venue to meet, and we're not that big a club. I volunteered, and this is a note to everybody. If you volunteer, be ready to handle it all yourself. I volunteered in the beginning in March to say, I'll find a few speakers for the club. 11 months later, I'm still finding speakers for the club. I'm getting a little help, but that's the interesting part. And that's one thing, going to what Jess said earlier. After this is all over and we get back to whatever normal is going to be, we can still meet. We can still pull speakers in from anywhere in the world, as long as the time will work and everybody cooperates to be at our meetings. This has opened up a whole new level, as far as I'm concerned, with Rotary that we would never have had. I've had speakers come to our club, I say come to, but virtually, that would never fly or drive into St. Louis to be there. They just would not. And it's amazing how this is going to I believe, open up the true interconnectedness of Rotary. Other than that, we're just, I'm still not working. Our daughter actually got a week's worth of work last week. That's the first time she's worked 7 days in a row since last March. My wife just went in today. She was supposed to go in on Wednesday, but weather kind of played in there. She's working from home for the most part. And our son is teaching hands-on robotics at University of Massachusetts Lowell. He's teaching, I'm going to emphasize again, hands-on robotics virtually. They are not in session at all, and he's teaching. They've managed to make it work to teach it all virtually. And again, things are changing. It's going to be a different world. In my mind, it's going to be a lot different than what we had done in the past. And change is kind of scary for a lot of people, but it's the only way we grow.
Everybody expects change, but nobody likes it until you've been with it. The new change is about a month, then it's okay.
Yep, then it's normal. I would, well, I'm not sure about normal, but I'm not sure what is normal anymore. Honestly, they came up with, evidently the state of Missouri cannot use the word virtual when it comes to education. They evidently will not do that. They came up with what they refer to as AMI. Alternative means of instruction. Virtual.
25-cent words.
Pretty much. So on that note,
I have two sons that are professors. One is a law professor, and the other son, David, is in the tourism field. Of course, all their classes are online. And, it's been a long process of preparing lessons and then putting them online.
Tom, let me bring up a very different subject that I think it might be important. I'm not sure whether regional, a zone effort, or it was all of Rotary, but I attended the first Rotary Works training session for me earlier this week, and it was extreme. They did a beautiful job of controlling the meeting, gone through, but it was really nice to have that training session work so well. Hopefully the word will get around and they'll start having huge crowds. But it was very nice. If you get a chance to attend any Rotary Works meetings, please do. I think you'll be impressed, unless I just happen to hit an awfully good one. But
Thank you. Vivian, can you tell us about your club?
It's almost non-existent and we're getting ready to fold. Not good.
What club is it, Vivian?
I belong to the Suburban Sioux City, Iowa Club. And we, because of pandemic and the number of people we haven't even been meeting for the last few months. We were only meeting when it was warm enough we could meet outdoors. And a couple of the major people are getting ready to retire from their jobs and have decided they do not wish to be a member any longer. And so I have just this last week drafted a letter to our district governors, that we are no longer going to exist as of July 1st, which is really sad.
It is.
But I will hopefully be joining the other club in Sioux City and remain a Rotarian. And I'm sorry my camera's not working. I don't know what's wrong with it again this morning.
No worries. We're glad you could make it.
Thank you.
Tom is hitting somebody.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have our speaker with us now, Dr. Stephanie Huff. She's talking to us from Tanzania. Welcome, Stephanie.
Do a sound check because I'm using some new headphones. Can you hear me okay? Just give a thumbs up.
that works.
Perfect. Now I did get a signal or a notification I have an unstable internet connection, so I apologize in advance. But if I freeze, just wave at me. Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen here.
David, Stephanie, our co-host.
Perfect. Sorry, everyone. It's there may be some lag. Yeah, it's just showing a security issue when I'm trying to share my screen, and this is the first time experiencing this, so I apologize. Let's try this again. Share.
You've got it now. We can see your screen.
Oh, perfect. Okay, sorry about that. So let's get started. So thank you again. Wear many diverse hats. I have a travel blog, some of my adventures around the world. And the blog opened doors for me to work with different travel companies, lodges, tourism boards to share my writing and photography and turn into a small business, basically. I'm also a yoga teacher and meditation guide. And I previously worked as an occupational therapist in Western Canada. So I have experience in academia, corporate, clinical, and field-based spaces. But today I'd like to talk to you about the work I did for my dissertation research in Tanzania on gender equity and share some of the results of the study by the women whom I spoke to, or as was shared with me, and as well as some future directions that I believe are also important to consider. So Mwanza is a northwestern town on the shores of Lake Victoria. So you can see it up on the map there, just at the south of the lake. And it's home to approximately 3 million people. And unsurprisingly, based on its proximity, the economy runs on fishing as well as mining. So the landscape is actually fairly rugged and there's a lot of rocky terrain. Recent statistics show that Tanzania was ranked at 130 of 160 countries measured on the Gender Inequality Index by the United Nations Development Program, indicating that there is a continued need for focus on gender rights and equality within the country. This is supported by the United Nations 2015 Sustainable Development Agenda, which placed gender equality as one of 17 international goals to be achieved by 2030. So we have less than 10 years left to achieve this goal, now layered by this new health crisis that we've been experiencing for the last year. So there's still quite a lot of work to be done, I think. And I also think it's important, before we set out for such big international goals, that we consider the individuals at the center of the goal. So we're not just coming in as outsiders and trying to fix an issue that we might not fully understand. So that's what I first set out to do, was to fully understand what is the issue in Mwanza. In 2016, I first had the opportunity to travel to Tanzania and intern for 3 months with an organization run by and for women's rights. And while I was there, I was helping with some program evaluation of their existing initiatives and had the chance to talk with some local women who had been positively impacted by the organization. So they were beneficiaries of the service. But it was really the first time that I was exposed to the scope of gender issues that women experience here. And so it very much sparked an interest in the topic, and I knew I wanted to return at a later point to do my dissertation research, to not only further explore how women experience and navigate such issues, but how they actually understand them. And as I mentioned, I think that that piece is particularly important because development work in Africa particularly has a history of folks from the West coming over and perhaps with well intentions, but coming with this idea to fix things. And sometimes that can cause more harm than good and reproduce colonial relations, which can reinforce trauma and exploitation that European settlers initiated historically. So from a gender perspective, also what I as a woman might consider a gender inequity in Canada or from our Canadian lens might just be a reality of daily life for a woman in Tanzania. I didn't want to go in with any assumptions. So this was sort of where I started out with my framework. And I created these 2 research questions that I wanted to answer with my study. How do Tanzanian women experience, perceive, and navigate their womanhood and gender inequities? And also, how do their occupations, and I mean by that their daily activities, how do those intersect with inequities? And are they also, maybe they're used for negotiation or resistance of inequities? So these are just a few of the research tools I used over the year that I lived in Tanzania. And this was from 2018 to 19, I should mention. So my favorite research method I used was actually what I call participatory occupation. So it's basically meaning that collectively we do activities together that the women might share were important to them. And it just so happens they were all income producing occupations. So here you can see I was learning the process to curate yogurt. So that involved first filtering the milk, boiling it for the process of pasteurization, and then waiting for it to boil, and then it would sit and ferment. Another day, I went and learned how to clean and dry these small fish, which are really common in the Mwanza region. So one of my participants sold these fish. That was her livelihood. And another day learning from women who sell textiles. So she was teaching me a little bit about her craft and baking, learning how to clean this rice on the right corner there. And then of course my results. So I believe the last time I spoke about this, I was still writing my dissertation, so I couldn't actually really share the results, which is sometimes the most interesting piece. So I ended up with 4 findings that you can see here. And I should mention the entire study was conducted in Swahili, which is my second language. So I worked with a translator and transcriber because I'm maybe conversationally fluent, but not enough. So I wanted to preserve the depth and richness of the data. So I was managing bilingual data, and as a strategy to try to not reproduce colonial relations, I have the Kiswahili translations first. So the results were understandings of gender inequities, conceptualizations of womanhood, navigating inequities through resistance, and envisioning gender equity. And so what was perhaps the most pleasant surprise of the study is while I went in to try to understand gender inequity, it actually organically created space for us to discuss, well, what is equity and how might that look? in the women's lives and their relationships and their communities. So the first finding, understandings of gender inequity, the women shared. In general, women are down. Men seem to be the head of the family and everything. So women are supposed to stay at home with the children. I see that 90% of our tribes have a system that men use to put women down. So all of them bring down the women and they feel like a woman has no value. As I always say, the woman has the third position in the family because the husband and children come first. So she is the last person. Her value is very small. Yes, gender inequities exist. Just trying to move my bar here. Oops. Sorry about that. But these challenges exist because of that system of manhood. And continuing from there, for example, I'm going to ask for work in a certain office, and a man there asks me about corruption, not money. He just needs my body as a bribe. That is a bad thing. I hated that, but it happens sometimes. I don't like other women thinking I can't get work without this. Some men say that a woman is like a kifungasio, a package or a bag. Once you open that package and take out its contents, it's nothing, it is of no use. You must throw it away. That is how the women are being treated. Women know their rights, but some men still don't know women's rights. Women have woken up and changed, but getting those rights is very difficult because when you go to the district government, you will find that all the leaders are men, starting from the ward or the neighborhood leader to the government. And the second finding was conceptualizations of womanhood. And this one broke into 3 tiers or 3 sub-findings, which were motherhood, tribal belonging, and gendered occupation, or the gendered nature of the daily activities that we all do. Participant 1 shared, I can say to be a woman, it feels good. In nature, a woman is everything. I feel proud to be a woman because a woman is a mother. I believe the mother is everything. The mother is the family keeper. When you are a mother, everyone depends on you. Even that husband will be supported by you. The child depends on the mother, so I am happy to be a woman. As a wife who has no kids, you are being ignored. If you have no children, as a woman in Tanzania, you have no value from your husband up to your husband's family and the surrounding community. So if you want to be respected and your womanhood to be valued, you must have kids. If you are married, you have a husband, and you have kids, it means your womanhood has completed. Now the third, sorry, I've got some mosquitoes buzzing around me. The third finding, navigating gender inequities through resistance. Participant 1 shared, I went to a man's house and we just talked. But after that, he started to force me. I fought with him. I fought and I fought and I fought until he let me go. So that is a time and a moment I cannot forget. But now I know that I can agree or disagree. I can choose what I want by myself and not to be forced by someone else. I work in a group. At the end of the month, we pay each other from the group profits. This lady came to us from Shinyanga. She came with her own problems, so we trained her, gave her capital as a loan, and she boils our milk in the center. She's slowly paying it back, and now we are always her backup. And the final result, envisioning gender equity. Participant 1 shared, I would like women to be treated fairly. We have to educate women about their rights. That's the big thing. We have to educate them so they can be aware that this is my right as a woman. Participant 2 shared, in my understanding, gender inequity can force someone to be under someone else and lack her rights because she's a woman. To remove this, we need education. If the people can get education, they can identify there are no activities special for anyone. We can share so as to reach gender equity. Participant 3 shared, what is needed is more economic activity. If we can get that balance and we also work and get equal money, then the gender inequity will not exist. And participant 4 shared, I believe all rights are equal, and I would like all of us to live under our dreams. And the last and final participant 5, shared, if good education would be provided to men, for example, these men from the church, even these pastors could gather them and talk to them, and maybe they'll change and they'll treat us nicely. So we've returned questions that I started with 1 year into the study, and then 1 year later, I returned to those 2 questions. So after hearing some of the quotes from the women, you can really appreciate the complexities and the intersectionalities within their lives, within gender and womanhood, and the inequities that they experience in Tanzania, and how through the research, through attending to them, deepened understandings about how the women themselves actually understood, experienced, and navigated these inequities within their families, their relationships, their communities. And we can also further appreciate how their lives were highly gendered and bound by social, cultural, political contexts, such as the corruption that the women were expressing. While they all explicated that experiencing inequities through engagement in certain activities were common, some of these same activities were actually also employed as methods of negotiation or of resistance to inequities, particularly income-producing occupations and education were voiced as ways that women could acquire power, respect, and wealth, as well as potential modes of actually enacting change or enacting equity within their communities. So speaking to the implications of this work, my dissertation research contributed to the social movement that is seeking to challenge coloniality or challenge colonialism through decolonizing approaches to research and practice. And it also responded directly to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 4, gender equality. However, there is a lot of work to be done, so the research doesn't just stop here. More remains to be seen on how things like climate change, so climate degradation, and health crises like the COVID pandemic, how these things are disproportionately impacting women and girls around the world, and particularly in low-income countries, and even developing settings like in Canada in our Indigenous communities. I'm currently looking for postdoctoral opportunities, and these are areas that I'm very passionate about and interested in further exploring. So I will leave you with one final quote. Women should like each other, help each other, and encourage each other. Women should raise our voices together. My war should be your war, and we should go to war together. Women can, women we can. Okay. So that was short and hopefully sweet. I didn't want to bring too much data to the table and overwhelm anyone with the research talk, but we have lots of time for questions or dialogue. If anyone has anything at the top of their minds they wanted to ask or discuss.
I have a question. This is Laurel. I'm in California. There's another participant on the webinar that is also involved with a school in Tanzania. My question has to do with education. When you did this and you had that one participant who said education, women need education. When you were doing your research, how much did you examine the school system currently in Tanzania and the education available to girls in particular, and the availability of high quality secondary education for them so that they can get the kinds of jobs that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I didn't personally examine the schools at all, actually. So I should mention all of my participants were 18 years or older, and they were quite a diverse group of 5 women, ranging from the age of 21 to she was about 62 or 63. So the youngest woman was finished up until the end of secondary school, and the other 4 of 5 women had very limited access to education. Maybe around like grade 4, they would end, and one of the women had access to no education at all. So she actually couldn't read or write, which she expressed was really hurtful for her, that she had trouble signing her name and such. So it's a huge barrier, especially for folks, a little bit farther out in remote areas where they just geographically don't have access. But my first thought in answering your question would be, again, kind of this tension. If we think of the school systems, where folks from the western part of the world are building schools, and school is being instructed in English, and now it's sort of problematic for folks who have these opportunities when actually English is not a national language in Tanzania. It's Swahili. So I think part of this decolonizing movement is bringing the education piece back into the power and control of Tanzanians themselves. And I guess it's kind of a collaborative process of redefining what does that look like. Because I think what we're trying to do, it's in the past, it hasn't worked when there's been sort of this development approach of coming in from the outside and doing everything in English. So yeah, it's complicated. I don't have a straight answer for you, but
yeah, as I said, Cindy's the other participant. There's a school that we work with in Arusha.
Yeah. Oh, that's where I am right now.
That's where you are right now?
Yeah.
That is funny. So are you familiar with the School of St. Jude?
No, I'm not.
Interesting.
No.
Okay. Well, they've just established a girls' campus, secondary girls' campus, and the school began with an Australian woman, but it currently is run and employed predominantly by Tanzanians, and they do very well in this country in their school scores. But we're very much interested in, education as the means out of poverty, and particularly for girls in Tanzania and what's happening there. So this was a topic of interest to us. I don't know if Cindy has any questions, but she's a guest, not a Rotarian per se, but she could be a Rotarian because she's very service minded. So, but thank you for doing this. It was interesting for
You're
me.
welcome. Thank you for your question.
Anyone else have questions for Stephanie?
This is not so much a question, but an observation. Trying to find the right way to word this. Not at all to diminish what's going on there. Unfortunately, this seems to be a problem worldwide. I can speak to own experience, and actually inverse with me personally, but our daughter is almost exclusively male dominated field. Lights and sets and all the other stuff does the light design. The problem is she weighs all of 95 pounds. They look at her, A, you're a female, B, you're small, you can't do this. And you don't want to tell our daughter you can't do this. She's 34 and it just doesn't work too well. My wife is an engineer at the other end of the spectrum, age-wise, and also very male dominated. Finally getting out of, well, you're a woman, you can't do this, after 40 years in the business. It is something I think that we all need to look at as to how we treat other individuals, treat them as equals, as you brought out. I think that was the one thing. And I think culturally, it's one thing in Tanzania and elsewhere. Here, I don't know if I want to call it cultural or if it is more of the way it's just so embedded at this point. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm an old white guy in with pretty much young women. And the reverse happens from my end. Well, you're old, you don't understand, or you're a guy, you couldn't, et cetera, et cetera. I think we all need to realize that these are individuals, these are humans we're talking about. They're not, as the one person put it, they're not property. They're not anything like that. And it's something that I think cuts across, you brought it out very well there, that made me think about how it does cut across all other cultures and everything like that. Thank you for pointing that out and making us much more aware than what I think we would have been.
Thank you for your comment. That's so interesting. Yeah, I think it actually made me think of an example that I learned from another researcher who does a lot of work on power and privilege. And she uses the metaphor of a coin. And so when we're examining our own positionality within our society, you're either on one side of the coin, so male or female, or maybe it's not so black and white. There's a lot of fluidity there with gender identity, but you get the point I'm making. So male or female, white or person of color, able-bodied or has disability. And so as you start to kind of go through this activity, you start to kind of see where you're at in the spectrum of power and privilege. And then once we acknowledge that, speaking for myself as a white individual, highly educated, middle class, has Canadian passports, we start to kind of recognize that, yeah, the context is huge, not just culturally, but politically with where we live. Language is power. Words carry power. So all of these things are just enmeshed, and it's kind of teasing them out, especially when we're talking about social inequities. Yeah.
This is Cindy. I wonder if I could ask a question as well. First of all, thank you. I really appreciate you all letting me join your meeting this morning. I guess my comment first is about the teaching English in schools. And the Tanzanian school system, by definition, the way they have it set up, high school is in English. So in order for students to succeed at the high school level, they have to know English to be able to do well there. So that's why it's probably important to teach it at the primary school level. But my question is really, I know you were with a group of women that were of a variety of ages, and I'm wondering if they ever talked about how things are different now versus 20 or 25 years ago. Thanks.
That's a great question. And they did actually, so much so that one of the subheadings within my dissertation was called Nowadays, because the translation was nowadays, like back in, maybe my grandparents' day, this happened, but nowadays times have changed. So that was actually a huge theme. And I think it's a little bit of globalization, some more technology. Like one of the women had a smartphone, which was life-changing for her because she can Google things. Like what would we do without Google? Imagine. Versus another woman's living without running water and power. So you kind of can see the discrepancy. But one woman saying, one of the oldest women saying, you know, when I was growing up and I had my first baby, this, you know, things were so challenging for me. She was married at, I think, 14 and then abandoned after her first baby. So navigating that, but nowadays she has her kids and grandkids. Times are changing, and she's teaching her grandson to cook and clean and wash just like the girls would, whereas before she explicated that it would be very, very gender kind of separated. So yeah, really great question. That was a huge theme. Or as people are coming from the rural areas into more of the cities as the country develops, it's sort of the tribal belonging remains. So when you're born into your tribe by your father's lineage, so when you're a woman and you marry, you maintain your tribal belonging, but you don't always necessarily marry a man of the same tribe. So I think they had shared that before that wouldn't happen, and usually the tribes would marry within the same tribe. But nowadays, people are coming to the city and they're intermingling, and you know, your neighbor might be from a different tribe, and it's just, you're just sharing as friends and neighbors would. So times are changing in that regard as well. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I could keep talking on this topic, but there's no other questions. Thank you, Bill. I saw that.
Well, thank you very much, Stephanie. It's amazing how we can hook up in so many different countries. And to have you all the way from Tanzania, it's an amazing technology feat.
Indeed, yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and we look forward to seeing you all back here in March, March the 12th, with Ron and Glow speaking about Rotary grants. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Bye-bye.